Hey everybody, this is Johnny with Garden Valley Brewing. It's crappy weather out there. Of course, I'm here with brewing assistant Chico. And this video is going to show you how to make a yeast starter. So this is a yeast starter we made for a stout we brewed recently. It was very high gravity. And here it comes. So this batch of stout we're going to make is going to wind up being about 11% alcohol per volume, ABV. So if I were to just take my yeast, my Y yeast packet, pop the nutrient bubble inside, which I already have done, and I've shaken it up, and just dump that in my wort after I was done boiling, most likely, because of the high gravity in the wort, this little pouch of yeast would not have enough yeast cells in it to go ahead and fully ferment the batch to what I want, what I want is 11%. So what we're going to do is make a yeast starter. So what we need is our pouch of yeast. We need some nice clean water. It doesn't have any sulfur in it, so I got a bottle of water here. And then I've got some dried malt extract here. And essentially what I'm going to do is cook up some of this malt extract in a little pot. Pour that into a Pyrex flask. Cool it off to pitching temperature. Pitch my yeast into that flask. Put a stopper and airlock on it and let it sit overnight. And that should multiply our yeast count 3 to 4 fold. So by the time we brew tomorrow, we will dump all that yeast in there and they will go to town. So we're going to go ahead and get this yeast starter boiling. We got a little pot here, saucepan, whatever you want to call it. Dump in a cup of DME here. Dump in some water. I think I want about 24 ounces, sounds good. And I'm going to stir that up as soon as I get me a spoon. Not too worried about the spoon not being sanitized because this is going to boil. So it's going to kill anything in here. Get this stirred up real good. If you got clumps, don't worry about it. It starts to boil, the clumps are going to break up. Just going to make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom there. Good enough. This puppy going. All right. And we'll keep our eye on this. This is just like any other brewing deal. You know, once the water gets too close to boiling, the malt extract's going to mix in with it. It's going to want to boil over. So make sure you pay attention. Okay, we're going to get this up to boil, and then we're going to boil it for, I'll probably boil that about 15 minutes, just to make sure we kill anything in there. Okay, you can see that as it's begun to warm, all the clumps are gone. So, you know, don't worry about it if you got clumps when you dump it in there. Heat will go ahead and spread that stuff out. So just keep an eye on it like I am, and get to the boil. Okay. Stir it every once in a while. While you're waiting, or while we're waiting, Chico and I will eat some nachos and wait for that boil. Alright, we got a boil. It's wanting to foam over, you can see. So it starts to get excited, I just kind of take it off the flame there. Get all the compounds out of there that's making it want to boil over. And then I'll turn this down as low as I can. Fortunately, this is one of them there propane stoves. Didn't have real good low control, but it looks like we got something cooking there. So, all right, good. So at this point, if you wanted to, you could drop in a couple hop pellets. Typically you want to use, the hops that you're using in the batch. You don't have to do that, but hops do have antibacterial properties. So if you're worried about sanitation or the transfer of sanitation, bad bacteria to the yeast, you could certainly throw in a couple hop pellets at this point. So we're going to boil this for about 15 minutes. While that's boiling, I'm going to take our yeast packet downstairs and I'm going to sanitize that where I happen to have the Pyrex and the other equipment we're going to need sanitizing as well. And I'll rinse that stuff off and I'll bring it back up. And then this should be ready and then we'll commence. Okay, this is boiled for about 15 minutes. And I've brought up from the brewery downstairs one of these Pyrex flasks here. There's the airlock. It's going to go into it eventually. Yeast packet that's been sanitized. Pair of scissors that is sanitized because I'm going to use that to cut that yeast packet. And then a thermometer that I'm going to place inside here so I know, at what point I can pitch my yeast. Because obviously if I dump that into there and I pour yeast into there, the yeast will die because that's hot. So we're going to go ahead and pour our extract into our sanitized Pyrex container. At this point, you would probably be well advised to use a funnel. I got a spout on this pan, so I'm just going to pour this in here. All right, boom shakalaka. There it is. Now we're going to cover this with a nice clean thing of tin foil that I got here. For sanitary reasons. Alright. We're going to place this in an ice bath, and of course that's just a sink here. Full of ice. You probably want to just fill it up enough to where it's about the same level as your wort, so this dude isn't floating around. Alright, and we're going to let that sit there, but we got to know when we can pitch, so we're going to grab our thermometer here. We're going to just puncture this. Well, drop that fella in there. Of course, we can see that currently, well, maybe we can't see. There we go. We're at a good, over 180 degrees for sure. So we're going to let that sit there until we get down to, I'm going to say 80 degrees, and then we're going to pitch our yeast in there. It's not a bad idea while this is cooling to go ahead and just kind of stir this water around a little bit here. Just keep a nice cold ice up against it, help you get this thing down quicker so you're not here all day. Won't take that long, either way. I mean, we're at 160 now, so it'll get down there pretty quick. And while we're waiting, we have visitors. When you start to brew beer, everyone comes out, Okay, we're down to about 80 degrees, a little bit under. So I think it's safe to pitch our yeast in here, so that's what we'll do next. Alright, so I've removed our foil and the thermometer. I've cut a very small corner off the yeast here so I can try to pour that directly in there, try not to make much of a mess. And let's get it all in there, just dump it all in. Make sure you've popped the activator in the yeast before you've done this and shook it up. You probably want to do that maybe an hour before you actually start your starter, to go ahead and let that activator start getting that yeast riled up. Alright, so there we go. The yeast is in. So I'll just place my airlock on there. I've got a little bit too much fluid in there, so I'm going to put some of that fluid out of there, and then I'll put that airlock on there. Okay. Got my airlock there. That's sanitizer and water inside of it, obviously. give this a little stir here. You know, it needs oxygen to ferment. Shake it up a bit, you know, let it get a little. All right, and now we want to put this in a nice, warm, dark place. And I know what you're thinking, my head, right? No. You know, pick a closet in the main part of your house that's going to maintain a temperature of, let's say, you know, 68 to 72. That'll help this get going, and that's what we want to ferment this yeast at anyway. And then by the same time tomorrow, 24 hours from now, we should see some activity in there. See a little bubbling on the sides, may even see the airlock going, and then we might be in a position to dump our yeast into our brew, which we will brew tomorrow. So, that's how to make a yeast starter. As always, our Garden Valley Brewing videos are filmed at beautiful Terrace Lakes Resort in Garden Valley, Idaho. This is Johnny with Brewing Assistant Chico. Until the next video, stretch those livers.